What is up, everybody? It is Alex from Heavy New York calling from the quarantine zone again, and this time we are here with the entirety of Pupil Slicer. It's so great to talk to all of you. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having us.
It's
Fantastic to be here.
Yeah, it's fantastic to have you all here. We have Mirrors coming out this Friday. This album is absolutely insane. Really, I've always said it's an easy record to pick up, but a very hard record to put down. That's my analysis of it. Really, what was the thought process behind the making of this album? Was there kind of like a goal that you entered the studio with? How did Mirrors sort of like see the light of day? Who wants to go first?
I think I'll go first. I'm Kate. I play guitar and sing. With Mirrors, it was sort of like it was us finally putting out the sound that we wanted to sound like, if that makes sense. Like we weren't exactly sure where we wanted to go at first with the EPs, with the splits. We were sort of finding our footing a bit, and then we started working on these new songs, and we're like, this is something else. We didn't have any like end goal in sight. Like, let's just write stuff that really appeals to us, what music we're into, and just sort of whatever sounds cool, let's do it. Let's put no restrictions on ourselves and just like make a really good final product. Like we wanted to get it properly produced like we did this time. We wanted to make sure we got like music videos we'd be happy with looking back years later, just make it the whole package really. And I think we did. I think I had something to really be proud of. It's really happy with how with the end product we ended up with.
Do you feel that like the first two singles that you released are a good representation of what the entirety of Mirrors will sound like, or do you feel like that's just one piece of the puzzle?
I don't mind taking this one. I think we got a lot more to like show on the album. We definitely have a lot more different styles and stuff. We think they're like quite diverse singles and definitely show a lot of the running motifs that sort of feature throughout the album. Like there's a lot of sort of heavy breakdowns and sort of quieter parts. Like there's like quite a quiet section in Wounds, which sort of features a little bit more in some of the other songs, and there's some sort of like stabby bits, like similar to the really frantic parts of Interlocutor. But it's there's definitely more surprises, and hopefully when people do listen to it on Friday, they'll get a lot more. I won't sort of give away a lot before people have a listen, but yeah, there's a lot of little surprises and different ideas in there.
Mm-hmm. Because I've always thought that like the music is, and I know that some bands don't really like this term, but like I've always thought that like the music is very experimental. There's a lot of different elements in it, so it's fair to say that like trying new things and experimenting is almost part of the Pupil Slicer songwriting process, right?
Yeah, there was a lot of stuff going into writing this, which was like, it's gonna work. Like I've thought I'm in the studio and then like listen to it for a few days and then I'm gonna go and record it like a conventional way if it didn't work. But pretty much all of those experiments were like, no, it sounds sick, just leave it in. Like, yeah, there's a lot of, at least vocally, there's a lot of that. I think with the tracking it, we all sort of the songs didn't get tracked the way they've been planned originally. Like there was a lot of in the studio tweaking and sort of being like, well, this sounds better. There was a lot of Josh's drum parts were like being finalized in the studio. So we were always looking to like, can this be improved? Can we do anything here that we're not doing?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
And being that the rhythm section on here is so experimental, moving in all different elements, I mean, how do you like, it's a cliche question to ask, but when it comes to tracking, like, you know, the bass and the drums, like, how exactly do you do it? Does there need to be like some sort of riffs or music present before you lay down your parts, or do you actually have like the whole rhythmic pattern laid down before music is layered over that?
Everything's written out. All the music is written for all parts, generally speaking. So we actually, by written, I mean, we actually tab it out. So all the reference point for all of us will be, once it's kind of into a workable idea, actually learning the dots So when we come together, we've kind of been practicing quite a lot already.
Hmm.
You know, so because in a way, and I guess it's kind of true of a lot of other extreme metal and like death metal and gent and stuff, which is, I don't know how in the 80s or the 90s or whenever a band could have jammed that, because you all need to have at least some technology in order to like write it and then practice along with it. So I guess it's a bit harder than, well, not harder, it's just different from jamming out riffs together, because it'd be quite difficult to do that. Metal bands aren't the best at jamming, right?
Yeah.
Because they learn the material and come together and play. So, but I hope in the future we get to do more of that once, as you said before you started taping, things begin to return to what we would understand as normality in a post-COVID situation.
Yeah, I can't go to a Pupil Slicer show. I'm expecting like the most violent of pits and just some of the most relentless crowds. You can't do that with social distancing. So
No, like, or Kate will just accidentally run at you and hit you in the head with a guitar, which does happen sometimes to people who get a little bit too close.
yeah, well,
Me included.
they should be
No one's
honored.
safe.
They should be
No
honored.
one's safe.
You get this. That's what you call an autograph. Like for your style of music, your bruises or the scratches or the wounds that you get at your shows are that style of music's autograph. That's.
I'd rather not hurt our friends.
Mhm.
But you know, things happen.
It's
Like
worth
I said.
saying that the guy that did the artwork for the album.
Oh yeah,
He came to watch us at a show because he's a good friend of mine who I was in a band with before. And
I
Kate,
twatted him with my fucking headstock.
yeah, Kate just leveled him with the headstock, and he was like, "This is kind of weird, but great as well." And I'm like, "Dude,
He's like bleeding from his forehead. I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. Please
might
don't
be
hate me.
concussed
And he
if
was
you're
like
enjoying it.
having a great time.
yeah." And those are the people that Kate likes.
Well, hey, maybe that album artwork I thought was really good. It added to the presentation of the album, so maybe that it made the vision happen. Maybe it wouldn't have
Yeah.
looked like that had it not been for that
Yeah.
situation. So,
Yeah.
but one
Shout out to Nick Povey,
one thing
artist in question.
one thing I'm curious about with like the lyricism that's incorporated on here, is there ever a time where maybe like a concept or a lyrical idea could influence the direction of the sound or the structure of it, or has music always needed to be put there before any sort of lyrical ideas come?
On this album, it was definitely like lyrics were. I was having an idea like writing the song, being like, this will be the theme for the lyrics because of this song, or I'd be like an idea for like a vague lyrical idea and song idea at the same time, but there wasn't any really like lyrics first, then write a song to fit that. There's usually always music first and then fit stuff around that.
Hmm. Being that like the music is so experimental and we kind of touched upon it, like does inspiration or ideas come out of nowhere sometimes, or maybe is there kind of like a research involved in the songwriting process? Like do you almost like you mentioned like the whole jamming thing, you don't know how like people are able to jam it, but like do you maybe find it easier to come up with ideas when all three of you are in the company of each other?
Josh, do you want to?
Yeah, some of the songs came from sort of sprung from jams in a way. Like it was all sort of written and tabbed out to be a song before we sort of played it in a room together. But I think a lot of the ideas for some of the songs did sort of come from a few sessions, sending stuff back and forth from each other. Some of the songs were like, me and Kate did a jam, like the last track on the album came from like a jam session. So yeah, there is sort of a little bit of an element of it that comes from that.
Yeah, there's a lot of spontaneity though. There is like stabbing spiders was like I heard another I think I heard a friend's band that had done like a 20-second short grind track, and I was like, oh, that's sick, I want to do something like that. And then I was also thinking of like Counting Worms by Knocked Loose, a classic. And I was just like, I want to do like a 30-second track, let's go. And just was like, wrote out the riffs. And in like 2 hours, that song was done with bass written and drums written. I'd like, finished product, there we go. and that just came out of nowhere. So there was a lot of things that come like that. I think a lot of writing on the guitar side does sort of start like that. But then it's like I bring it to Josh and put it by Luke, and it evolves from jamming together and being like, well, what can we do with the drums here? Like, I'll usually try and come up with a sort of example drum part of like how I'm visualizing it with my ears in my head. But yeah, there's it's always fun to like if I take away what I visualized with the drums being, and then be like, well, what would Josh do here, like with no prior thing of like he could transform the riff into something completely different, which has happened a few times where it's like he's playing some drums completely different to the feel of what I had in mind, but that also works, and then you've got two sections of a song like messing around with it. So yeah, there's a lot of different approaches to it.
And you actually brought up a good point too, because I kind of want all three of you to answer this, because this is always the most difficult question, and I love challenging people. So, but like I'm curious to, with Stabbing Spiders being a song that's just 47 seconds long, but then Wounds Upon My Skin is 4 minutes, like. But then you have a song like Husk that's 3.5 minutes, and you have like songs of multiple song lengths on here. So at what point do you feel like the song is finished?
That's usually on my end, with all the ideas that come together, jamming and stuff. It usually always goes back to me, and then I assemble those into the final song. So it's sort of, I don't know, it's just sort of a feeling of being like, this is done now. Like, I know with Husk, for like a year, that didn't have like the fat breakdown on the end of it. It just sort of ended, and I had nowhere to go with it. And I was like, it's not done. It doesn't feel done. And then I just found that in like my library of like 300 unused riffs I've got on my computer.
My riff library.
I had to dig through the old riff library, found something in a similar tempo, and was like, that'll work, glue it on the end, and then it was great. It was like, yeah, cool, that's done. So yes.
When a demo's done, that's a good question. The answer really is when
I make a demo.
It changes from being a working title file name to the same working title with done in brackets.
Yeah, I do with done in brackets.
Yeah, and then it's time to track.
When
I've got like
demo's
multiple
named.
folders. I've got like a riff idea, part of a song idea, almost finished song idea, song that's finished but I'm not happy with, and then finished songs ideas.
Or this song with drums V2. This song
with drums plus Luke's revision of bass.
You should release an album.
V4.
You should release an album with all the songs titled like that. Like I think that would. I think that would bring a whole. That'll bring a whole new layer.
I mean,
of
a lot
context.
of the working titles on the album were quite interesting. Seeing it's like Save the Dream was Code Orange ripoff, Husk was Employed to Serve ripoff, Worthless was Inside the Beehive ripoff.
It's kind of a break point where we have to go. We have to stop using the working titles now.
Yeah,
use the proper.
It's always weird, like forgetting them, and then but now at this point, I know them by like the actual titles more. But there is a point where we start live in the set list trying to use the proper titles, and then we put in brackets the working title because we're like, we don't actually know what the song's called.
Well, maybe that could be like a really good a satire album, or like a really good I think you could be onto something. This is a new idea. I recommend giving it a try.
Rarities collection.
Yeah.
Japanese bonus tracks.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the name of the next album. A list of Japanese bonus tracks. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah.
Fun fact, though, I heard that a lot of those bonus tracks are only in there because Japan requires them, but most of the band never included them on there because they hated those songs to begin with. So if you ask a band why the bonus track didn't make the record, odds are it's because they didn't like it.
We didn't have any spares.
Yeah, thankfully, yeah. The songs for the album were done, and then that was it. There was I got leftover riffs and stuff, but those were things I weren't happy with. So, yeah, this is just like the album was done, and since
Yeah.
the second album is on the way.
Do you
So
think
they might get some of those riffs might get dusted off in the
It might do.
Who knows?
Reworked to be good.
another
From the archive?
Thing.
Another question I have for you is that I feel like the music is very raw, and I feel like it is like what I think is great about Pupil Slicer is like it is just sort of like what you see is what you get band. I think you have nothing to hide. I think you let everything out there in your music. So is there maybe a similar energy that you put into your live presence as you do when you are songwriting, or being that what you mentioned with like how crazy your live shows are? Do you think maybe like the songwriting is a little bit more focused and a little bit more in depth, or do you think that there's a lot of similarities?
I would say the songwriting is probably not nearly anywhere near as chaotic as we're trying to be live. There's a lot more thought, and no, we do put thought into a live show and trying to make it as good as it can be, but like not as meticulously, like every detail. Like I'm very paying attention to detail. Like I had like a fortnight of tossing and turning, crying in my sleep because one pinch harmonic I tracked didn't sound right. I couldn't figure out how I wanted to do it different though to make it sound good. So yeah, very. There was like one bass note in the entire album that got auto-tuned a semitone higher. Because I wasn't happy with it. Despite it sounding fine, I was just like, that's not my vision for how that would sound. So, yeah, very.
Yeah, my vision was
very meticulous. Yeah.
But I'd imagine that like there is almost like a live energy that you capture in the song, right? Do you almost have to like practice the crowd interaction or practice like stage presence or crowd interaction as much as you have to practice executing the material itself?
I don't really practice either.
It's not great for practicing. Yeah, in terms of practicing, I think it's good to good practice for any band starting and when you're gigging to actually just practice your whole set, like as a run it like you're playing and practice it like that. So you get used to just the act of playing for 25 minutes, and it's you get used to transitioning between songs, because I don't know, it depends on what type of band you are, but not every band can get away with the level of like shit that Fat Mike talks between no effects and just like endless stage banter, which sometimes you see with local bands, and it's kind of like, come on,
play some songs.
Let's have some riffs. Yeah, and there's just like, and who's tuning? Sorry, I'm gonna have to say some bad jokes now, and it's like, wow, okay.
And we have like backups for if things go wrong, if the string snaps. We've got like a jam ready to like Josh and Luke to go. It's always my strings that go because I'm like punching my guitar.
We didn't at first, but it happened like 3 times in a row, and we were just like, Luke, we need to do something in this time rather than just like be like, come on, Kate, get that guitar.
Just stop using such cheap strings.
It's
So
strange,
that's the problem.
it is
Get a
strange,
spare guitar in the future as well, maybe.
Yeah, a spare guitar as well.
Yeah.
or better yet, a guitar tech.
Oh yeah, we're
We
just gonna do that.
Definitely. And it feels like because you're all based in London at the moment, right? That's where the band originated from.
No.
Oh.
Well, we originated in London. We were all living in London when the band formed. I've since moved to Aylesbury, which is like 2 hours north of London. Luke's moved to Kent, which is like 2 hours south of London, and Josh has stayed in the middle. But we'd say London because it's like that's where we go to practice because it's in the middle.
Yeah. But it seems like there's just for like this, really raw, like hardcore style that you have. It almost seems like there's a great scene with Employed to Serve. Loathe has been doing great things as well. But also As Everything Unfolds, which is a little bit more melodic, they're rising out of there as well. So I'd imagine that there's a great sort of like community and a scene that you're all affiliated with, right, band-wise?
Yeah, we haven't met everyone you sort of mentioned, but the people in Employed to Serve we've sort of met through going to shows and stuff, and they're like really, really friendly. And like one of the guys that works at our label, we sort of met through gigs, and he's sort of based in the UK scene as well. Will, he sort of worked for Holy Raw, which sort of became Church Road Records, which is sort of the label that Sammy and Justine run, who are like probably the best like UK sort of underground label, I'd say, going at the moment. So yeah, there definitely is like a sort of connection, and you sort of start to talk to people and meet people. Like, you know, I'm sure the guys in like Lobe are really cool as well. But yeah, there's definitely some sort of a scene going on at the moment.
Yeah, it seems like the UK is starting to become like Brooklyn now in the world of hardcore. It just seems like it's starting to become the new hardcore capital of the world.
The hardcore scene in London is really strong, but I would say probably the hardcore scene in the Midlands and up north is probably stronger, and there's more bands, I would say, than in London. But that being said, like the whole UK hardcore scene is awesome, and it's not something really that this band is directly affiliated with in a way, because as much as I would love to play with like Chamber of Malice and Nine Bar and, you know, Knuckle Dust and all these like UK hardcore bands, we haven't been booked for that many shows like that, to be honest. And we played quite a few hardcore shows, but we've been thrown in all sorts of shows because, like, as you sort of referenced, we throw in loads of different stuff, right? So we played on death metal shows, more kind of like math shows, hardcore.
We're just get like straight punky bands with us as well.
Yeah,
like
punk bands. So yeah, we've been booked on a whole host of different shows. But the scene across everything is pretty consistently strong, and I'm sure it'll remain intact.
Well, I've been noticing that tours and like festivals have been a lot more diverse. Like I saw Vane open up for Ghostmane one time, and like you see how like
Ghostmane.
Yeah, and I remember I was at Louder Than Life in Kentucky 2 years ago, and Ice Cube played before Godsmack and Guns N' Roses, and the crowd reaction was just as good. It almost seems like the future of music is just genreless. It almost seems like everybody's just gonna appreciate everything, and even
people just want to hear music.
Yeah. So I think in the end, I think there's something about your style that really, where people enjoy the live presence and just the energy, that they just want to see something like as relentless as possible. And I feel like that's what your shows are capable of doing.
Well, yeah, hopefully when we can. I would say, like, after we play a show, Kate is just always fucked and can't really talk. It's like, I need a cider and to go to bed quite soon. Yeah, it's true. It's true.
Dog Slicer.
So before
that's my dog Ozzy.
Oh, there was an interview I did yesterday where the dogs were barking for the entire half hour of it. Luckily, they were in another room, so I was able to crop it out. But that happens. That's the interview struggle. You know, back when there were shows and I was doing in-person interviews, the struggle was getting past venue security or, you know, dealing with sound check in the background. Today, the 2021 struggle is the dog barking in the background. It's fine. Representative of the times.
Sorry about that.
No, it's all good. It's all good. So before we go, I want to thank you, all of you, so much for your time, and I look forward to the rest of the world hearing this album. Is there just anything else with Pupil Slicer that you would like to plug for merch or anything else?
Yeah, we got a couple of shirts. We got like 3 shirts left as at time of speaking on Bandcamp, which is pupilslicer.bandcamp.com. We got a couple of older merch bits on there as well, which are like a reduced price. You can cop a copy of the album on CD and vinyl there, and we've got CD and vinyl on pupilslicer.bigcartel.com.
How many tapes left, Kate?
4, is it?
4 last time I checked. Yeah.
Grab them while you can.
We're probably down to we're getting down to like the last. We're getting down to the last set of vinyl now. I think we're like, there was 350 pressed, and we're in like high 200s. So You know,
Yeah, it's insane.
Get them while they're hot.
get them while I'm hot. Yeah.
Exactly. I didn't want to be the one to say it, but yeah, grab it while it's hot. But thank you all so much, everybody. We are here with Pupil Slicer. Be sure to check out Mirrors out this Friday. This is Alex from Heavy New York. We'll see you next time.